the single ingredient that fights senior memory loss. The shocking secret behind senior memory loss. About 1 in 4 adults over 50 takes some kind of brain supplement each day, yet most don't see real improvement. If you've ever walked into a room and forgotten why you're there or blanked on a familiar name, you know that sinking feeling. We joke about senior moments, but deep down, it's unsettling. The good news is, those moments aren't always signs of decline. They're often messages from your brain asking for better support. Here's the truth. Memory changes are common with age, but they don't have to control your life. There's a big difference between normal forgetfulness and the kind of decline that steals your independence. And here's the part no one talks about enough. Scientists are finding that in many cases, it's not just aging that's to blame. It's inflammation, diet, and lifestyle quietly working behind the scenes long before you notice the first "where did I put my keys?" moment. Most people believe that memory loss after 60 is inevitable, something you can't do anything about. But decades of research say otherwise. In fact, we now know that how your brain ages has much more to do with what you feed it, how you move, and even how you rest than with the number of candles on your last birthday cake. And that's actually great news because it means there's something you can do starting today to help protect your brain and keep your memories sharp. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Hidden in plain sight, right inside your kitchen spice rack, is an ingredient that scientists are calling one of the most promising natural defenders against memory decline. It's simple, it's safe, and it's been around for thousands of years. We're talking about turmeric, and more specifically curcumin, the golden compound that gives it that vivid color and powerful punch. But before we dive into how this spice works, let's take a step back. What's really going on inside the brain when those senior moments start happening more often? Why do some people seem to stay sharp and alert well into their 80s while others begin to struggle in their 60s? The answer has a lot to do with how your body handles inflammation and oxidative stress, those silent troublemakers that can quietly erode memory over time. Think of your brain as a busy city. Each neuron is like a house, and they're all connected by little communication lines. When inflammation and stress chemicals start building up, it's like the wires between those houses getting frayed. Messages start arriving slower or not at all. That's when we start noticing those lapses and gaps, the mental static that makes names, dates, or even familiar tasks seem harder than before. Here's the hopeful part. Many studies now show that we can calm this invisible chaos. Certain foods actually soothe the brain's inflammatory response, helping those neurons fire more clearly again. Scientists call these anti-inflammatory foods, and they come straight from nature. Colorful fruits, leafy greens, nuts, fish, and yes, even a bit of golden turmeric mixed into your meals. Together, they help cool down the fire that quietly threatens memory as we age. So if you've been feeling that mental fog creeping in or worrying about dementia because someone in your family had it, take a breath. Memory loss isn't destiny. The brain is far more resilient than we give it credit for. You can actually train and nourish it to stay strong, just like a muscle. Now, I know what you might be thinking. If this is such a miracle spice, why isn't everyone using it? Well, the answer lies in how it actually works inside your body and how easy it can be to get it wrong. This isn't about sprinkling random turmeric on everything or chasing miracle cures. It's about understanding what your brain truly needs and how curcumin fits perfectly into that picture. In the next few minutes, we'll unpack why our memories fade, what's really happening at a cellular level, and how one humble spice can make a measurable difference. The science behind this is fascinating, but don't worry, we'll keep it simple and practical. You'll walk away knowing exactly how to help your brain fight off the fog and stay clear-headed for years ahead. So stay with me, because the secret isn't just about age. It's about inflammation, resilience, and giving your brain the right kind of support to keep those wires firing bright. By the end, You'll see why this golden spice deserves a permanent spot on your kitchen counter, and how just a pinch a day could help protect your most precious asset, your memory. Why memory loss happens as we age. Let's start with something that surprises a lot of people. Forgetfulness doesn't automatically mean your brain is failing. Our brains actually go through natural changes with time, just like our joints or eyesight do. So if you sometimes misplace your glasses or forget a word mid-conversation, that's often normal aging. The key difference between everyday forgetfulness and cognitive decline is how often and how severely it happens, and most importantly, whether it interferes with daily life. When we're younger, the brain's communication network feels like a superhighway. Signals fly between neurons at lightning speed. As we get older, that highway can develop a few potholes. Some brain cells shrink slightly, blood flow may slow down, and we might not form new connections as easily. That's all part of the regular aging process. But the real trouble starts when those little potholes turn into roadblocks and entire sections of that network start breaking down from long-term inflammation or oxidation. Here's what's going on inside your head. Your brain's main memory hub is called the hippocampus. Think of it as the librarian that files, organizes, and retrieves everything you've experienced. Your "where did I leave my keys" and "what was that neighbor's name again" center. The hippocampus is sensitive. It needs good blood supply, stable chemistry, and protection from inflammation to stay sharp. Over time, tiny sources of damage like chronic stress, poor diet, or unmanaged blood pressure can inflame the hippocampus, shrinking its volume and slowing its ability to form or recall memories. Now, a little inflammation isn't always bad. It's your body's way of healing injuries. But when that inflammation doesn't turn off, it becomes what doctors call chronic neuroinflammation. Imagine a small campfire meant to keep you warm that no one ever puts out. It grows, spreads, and starts burning nearby structures. That constant heat wears down neurons, making them misfire or die off. That's one reason older adults who live with chronic diseases such as diabetes or heart disease tend to experience faster cognitive decline. Those conditions fuel continuous inflammation that reaches the brain. Add oxidative stress into the mix, and we've got a 2-for-1 problem. Oxidation sounds technical, but it's basically your body's version of rust. Free radicals, those unstable oxygen molecules, bounce around inside cells, scraping and damaging them. When you're younger, antioxidants from your diet and the body's own defenses keep everything balanced. But as we age, those defenses weaken, letting more oxidative damage accumulate. The combination of inflammation and oxidation creates a toxic environment for brain cells, especially in delicate areas like the hippocampus. The results show up in subtle ways. Maybe you forget appointments more often, or you have trouble multitasking. Conversations feel harder to follow. You might even notice mood changes, like being more irritable or anxious. That's because the same parts of the brain that handle memory also regulate emotion. When neurons in those regions become inflamed, messages don't travel smoothly, so the brain works harder to process simple information, and you feel mentally drained. But here's the encouraging part. This process isn't fixed. Scientists studying brain aging have found that inflammation and oxidation respond strongly to lifestyle habits. In fact, the overall pattern of your diet can either push your brain toward decline or help it regenerate. Diets rich in anti-inflammatory foods, colorful fruits, leafy greens, nuts, whole grains, and fatty fish are linked to lower levels of cognitive decline and even better brain volume on imaging studies. These foods calm the immune reactions that make neurons angry and swollen, giving your brain a much friendlier environment to work in. Let me make it practical for a second. If dinner often comes from a box or a drive-through, your body's balance tilts toward inflammation. Those processed fats and sugars spike insulin, stress your arteries, and flood your bloodstream with inflammatory molecules that can travel straight to the brain. On the flip side, if you swap the fries for salmon or add a side of berries and spinach, you're feeding your neurons the raw materials they need to stay healthy, omega-3s vitamins, and antioxidants that neutralize free radicals before they cause trouble. It's like turning off the rust factory inside your head. Of course, food is only part of the story. Lack of movement, poor sleep, and chronic stress all make brain inflammation worse. When you sit still most of the day, blood flow to the brain declines. Without good circulation, fewer nutrients and oxygen reach critical brain regions, while waste products linger. Sleep is equally important. It's when your glial cells, the brain's cleanup crew, clear out toxins that build up while you're awake. Miss out on that nightly reset for too long, and those toxins start interfering with cell communication. Even constant stress, with its steady trickle of cortisol, can shrink the hippocampus over time. So if you've noticed more forgetfulness lately, that doesn't mean your brain is doomed. It may simply be responding to too much internal noise. The message from research is clear. Calm the inflammation, feed your brain with nutrient-dense foods, move regularly, and let it rest deeply at night. Those small choices can physically change what your brain looks like on a scan. In one major study, older adults who followed anti-inflammatory diets, such as the Mediterranean or MIND diet, showed not only slower memory decline over the years, but also more gray matter in brain regions tied to memory and learning. Another thing to understand is that genetics play a part, but they aren't destiny. Having a parent with Alzheimer's or mild cognitive impairment might increase risk, but your lifestyle can turn certain genes up or down. Every healthy meal, every brisk walk, and every new skill you learn sends chemical signals that promote brain resilience. You're constantly reshaping your brain's structure through your behavior, a process scientists call neuroplasticity. So even if degeneration has already begun, supporting neuroplasticity gives your brain the tools to build detours around damaged pathways. And that's where anti-inflammatory nutrition becomes such a powerful ally. Think of it as giving your hippocampus the materials it needs to repair the road instead of letting potholes spread. Over time, people who commit to these food patterns often describe mental clarity returning, less fog, faster recall, better focus. These are measurable effects confirmed by research showing that improved diet reduces inflammation markers and enhances cognitive performance tests. All this sets the stage for something fascinating. Among the many foods studied for brain health, one keeps standing out, a spice so ordinary you probably have it in your kitchen right now. For centuries, it's been used not just for flavor, but for healing, and modern science is finally proving why. It directly tackles the inflammation and oxidative stress we've been talking about, acting almost like a shield for neurons. You've guessed it, we're talking about turmeric and its active compound, curcumin. We'll dig into the details in the next section, but here's a preview. While no single ingredient can erase aging, curcumin has shown in multiple clinical trials to improve memory scores, support brain structure, and even influence the proteins linked to Alzheimer's disease. It's safe, affordable, and incredibly easy to add to your day. So as we move forward, keep this idea in mind. Memory loss isn't just about age or bad luck. It's about brain chemistry and inflammation that we can actually influence. When you understand why memory fades, the solutions suddenly become clearer. And the next time you forget where you put your phone, you'll know it's not hopeless. It's a sign your brain could use a little TLC, starting with what's on your plate. In a moment, we'll zoom in on that golden spice and see how it earned its reputation as nature's gift to the aging brain. The inflammation-brain connection. Let's talk about what's quietly happening under the surface, the part most people never see, but feel every day without realizing it. You've probably noticed how your joints can ache after a few days of bad eating, or how a poor night's sleep leaves your mind cloudy. That fog isn't just in your imagination. It's inflammation, and it doesn't stop at your knees or your stomach. It makes its way right into your brain. Think of inflammation as your body's immune alarm system. When something's off, like an infection or an injury, it sends chemical messengers to the area to start repair work. For a short time, that's a good thing. But if that alarm keeps ringing without reason, often thanks to stress, junk food, or chronic diseases, it turns from protection to destruction. Your immune system can't tell the difference between a virus and a Big Mac habit. It just keeps releasing inflammatory signals. And eventually, those signals start crossing the blood-brain barrier. The brain calls this process neuroinflammation, basically the brain's version of swelling. And unlike a scrape on your knee, you can't put a bandage on it. Inside the brain, that swelling presses on neurons, blocks their communication, and releases more reactive molecules that oxidize tissue. The result? Memory circuits start misfiring, reaction times slow, and you might find yourself rereading the same paragraph 3 times to absorb it. One of the main areas that suffers is the hippocampus, that same librarian of memory we talked about earlier. When neuroinflammation hits the hippocampus, it's like the library filling with smoke. The books are still there, but good luck finding what you're looking for. Each new smoldering episode kills off a few more neurons, and over time, the shelves get pretty empty. In advanced cases like dementia, that damage becomes visible on brain scans as actual shrinkage. Now, here's a comforting piece of truth. We can calm that fire. Studies comparing dietary patterns show that adults who follow anti-inflammatory diets, like the Mediterranean or MIND diet, have not only a lower risk of dementia, but also healthier hippocampal structure. Researchers in 2024 found that older adults with heart or metabolic disease who ate anti-inflammatory foods had more gray matter volume than those who didn't. Bigger gray matter volume means better memory storage space. So what fuels this unwanted inflammation in the first place? The usual suspects are convenience foods, processed meats, refined carbs, sugary snacks, and fried oils. They flood your bloodstream with compounds that trigger your immune system's alarm again and again. Add chronic stress on top, and you've built the perfect storm. When your body is constantly fighting invisible battles, it releases cytokines, those little messenger proteins that tell cells we're under attack. If that signal never stops, those cytokines begin to damage rather than defend. Here's the twist most people miss. Your gut plays a massive role in this. Your digestive system has its own microbiome, trillions of tiny organisms that communicate directly with your brain through what's called the gut-brain axis. When we eat a balanced, fiber-rich diet, the good microbes thrive and send anti-inflammatory messages. But a diet heavy in refined carbs and low in plants lets harmful bacteria take over, producing toxins that seep into the bloodstream. Those toxins don't stay there. They reach the brain, add to the inflammatory load, and worsen that foggy feeling we mistake for just getting older. In simple terms, inflammation doesn't come from one big event. It builds drip by drip over years. Every can of soda, every skipped walk, every late night adds a few more drops. Eventually, the bucket overflows, and that's when symptoms show up. The beauty is, it can also drain the other way. Every serving of leafy greens, every handful of nuts, every quiet afternoon nap short-circuits the process and helps the brain cool back down. Let's anchor this with an easy-to-grasp picture. Imagine your brain's wiring covered in a fine protective layer, like the plastic coating on electrical cables. Inflammation erodes that coating, leaving the wires exposed. Sparks start to fly, circuits misfire, and connections short out. Anti-inflammatory foods act like insulation repair. They don't replace the entire circuit overnight, but they rebuild that protective layer one meal at a time. Animal studies have even shown how antioxidants from fruits and vegetables stop little immune cells in the brain, called microglia, from going rogue. Under stress, these microglia become overactive and start attacking healthy neurons instead of helping them. When fed anti-inflammatory compounds such as polyphenol and omega-3 fats, those same microglia settle down and return to clean up duty. So, what you eat literally tells your brain's immune cells to calm down or gear up for battle. Here's how it plays out in real life. You rush through the week on takeout and too little sleep, then by Friday, your mind feels fuzzy. That fog isn't from age. It's inflammation clogging your neurons' messaging system. But one balanced breakfast and a short walk can start clearing that static within days. The shift really can happen that fast. It's not just diet either. Mind-body habits influence inflammation just as powerfully. When you spend time with friends, laugh, or do something creative, your body releases calming neurotransmitters that inhibit stress hormones like cortisol. Regular movement, simple walking or light stretching, helps flush inflammatory agents through improved circulation. And sleep, that underrated medicine, is when your brain's waste clearance system, the glymphatic network, goes to work. Studies show sleeping 6 to 8 hours consistently keeps inflammatory markers lower and preserves memory over time. Of course, the picture isn't complete without something special. Certain compounds in plants that act as nature's anti-inflammatory specialists. They're called polyphenol, flavonoids, and curcuminoids, found in everything from berries to beans to spices. Among all of them, one stands out for its extraordinary reach inside the brain. Not only does it calm inflammation, but it also fights oxidation and prevents the buildup of those sticky proteins known to appear in Alzheimer's disease. You guessed it, it's turmeric's golden compound, curcumin. Curcumin doesn't just calm inflammation, it multitasks. It slows the body's overactive chemical fire alarms while boosting its natural cleanup crew, like glutathione. Put simply, that means less swelling, fewer free radicals, and smoother communication between your brain cells. You could think of it as clearing static off a radio channel until the signal shines through again. It's easy to overlook how important that is until you think about daily life. Every memory you form relies on thousands of signals bouncing across synapses each second. If the space between those connections is clogged with inflammatory residue, the signal simply doesn't get through as efficiently. But when you reduce inflammation, the static clears up and the memory downloads faster. People often describe it as getting mental brightness back, like finally cleaning a dirty pair of glasses. Now, does that mean you can eat one turmeric-covered meal and expect miracles? Not quite. The body responds to patterns, not one-off actions. Anti-inflammatory eating and routines must become the rule, not the exception. But here's the good news. Consistent small steps snowball. Within weeks of changing diet, markers of inflammation in the blood can drop. Within months, memory and attention scores can rise. Combine this with stress control and exercise, and research shows the results can compound into measurable protection against long-term cognitive decline. So when someone says memory loss just runs in the family, remember this: what often runs in families is shared lifestyle, shared recipes, habits, and stress patterns. Break that pattern, and you change the outcome. The inflammation-brain connection isn't destiny. It's a two-way street. You can feed the flames, or you can douse them. The choice lies in what you put on your plate, how often you move, and how kindly you let your body rest. And all of this brings us naturally to that golden spice that keeps appearing in research papers and kitchen cupboards alike.